Good morning, Wakali. Today, we are back in the studios to cover some American content, specifically being the suburbs of America. Currently, unlike in many other dense countries, America is littered with small suburban areas outside of larger cities. These areas are more open and focus primarily on housing rather than business.
In this episode, we'll be talking about how these areas came to be, along with how they work, why they're effective, and what makes them so effective. For starters, let's talk about what led to the growth of these suburbs to begin with Tanner on the scene.
Thank you, Jim. It's important we take note of the timing for starters. The suburban movement started originally in between the late 1940s and early 1950s. At the time, World War II had just concluded, and as a result, many of the previously busy men who were in the military returned home. At this time, the economy was also thriving, especially due to America's war efforts. Meanwhile, as soldiers returned home, city planners were taking account of the increase of people and potential families. They tried a new tactic pioneered by William Levy, where land outside of large cities was purchased and used to mass-produce multiple, inexpensive, modest houses. People were still able to work in the city due to some new transportation methods, and the prices were more attractive as opposed to a city apartment. As a result, living in these areas was apparent as being the best method of starting a family and living the new ideal American dream. Due to this, those areas started to grow rapidly as people moved, and they started to become popular across the country as a whole. This does seem to be a deal that is too good to be true, and one may ask, how exactly does this work to the point where it becomes so popular so quickly? For answers to that question, we have Macaroni on the scene.
Thank you, Tanner. There are a few aspects that make this form of living work out with success. The idea itself is simple. Instead of further expanding the city from our homes, just make a completely different environment outside of that city dedicated to housing, while still keeping it close enough to that city for the city to continue thriving as a business environment. The process starts by purchasing cheaper land outside of the city, which is mostly vacant. The land is then planned to be occupied by mostly houses, along with some other essential establishments. The houses which occupy the land are built to be similar in design. While they may not all stand out as a result, the houses can be constructed much faster as they all require the same materials and the same kind of construction process. It also helps cut down on the cost of housing. The separate area is also directly connected to the city through a few methods so that people can commute with relative ease. The reasons why people were pleased with this method of living mainly consist of their intentions and how the style of living fitted them. We'll have Giorno Giovanna cover those intentions after this short message. Be sure to stay tuned.
Introducing Tanner Pasta. Tanner Pasta is a new revolutionary audio log brand which consists of your favorite Fulabi tales. Our newest value package consists of the newest entry to the Fulabi collection, the African LeBron Legacy. For only $29.99, you can enjoy the complete African LeBron Legacy listening experience, consisting of high-quality audio logs filled with the most extensive Fulabi tales created. In fact, if you go to our website, www.tannerpasta.com, and use the exclusive code TANNER5, you will get 35% off your first purchase. That's right, you will get an entire 35% off your first audio log purchase. If you visit our site within the first 24 hours of this advertisement, you will also be entitled to a 24-hour trial, completely free of charge. If you don't like it, don't buy it. For more information, visit www.tannerpasta.com. That's www.tannerpasta.com.
And we're back in the studios, ready to continue with why people move to the suburbs. Around the time when suburbs were just starting to gain traction, as has been previously stated, many soldiers had just returned home, with many of them ready to come back to meet their significant other or potential one. As a result, many of those people wanted to settle down and start a family. Doing this in a city apartment would be very inconvenient due to less space and more commotion. Therefore, the demands for housing that better suited this family lifestyle skyrocketed. Part of the reason why suburbs blew up in popularity so quickly is because the houses that occupied them were already designed with this intent. The houses consisted of dedicated family rooms, more square footage, and a large yard. They were also cleverly placed far enough away from the city to avoid any extra commotion that may have deterred potential settlers. Potential settlers also need an easy way to commute between these two areas. And this was majorly solved by the interstate system, which was brand new at the time. The system consisted of large, high-speed roads that connected cities across the entire United States while maintaining consistent traffic flow. These roads also lacked intersections and any forms of stops. Once one entered the freeway, assuming traffic was consistently flowing, they would never have to come to a complete stop until they exited. The system still remains identical today and has been an effective solution for getting people to and from their destination. Not only was it able to transport people, but it was also able to transport nearly anything by vehicle, which became very popular in this era. Following this, we have On ready to show the statistics that back all of this. So, On, what are the numbers that back this?
Well, let's start off with the whole interstate ordeal we were just on about here. In order to use the interstate system, a family would typically need a car. Conveniently enough, the automobile was already becoming very popular across the country, and from 1948 to 1950, the percentage of automobile owners across the country rose by 20%. There was already many people who had a car, and due to the successful economy at the time, it wasn't difficult to buy one. The popularity of the automobile has only increased since. Another important reason why people moved to these new suburban communities was because of the benefits that were provided to all the returning soldiers who are now veterans. As a part of this, it includes the GI Bill, introduced in 1944, to provide veterans with multiple benefits, including low interest rates on mortgages for their new suburban homes. As a result, it was cheaper and often the better option for those soldiers to live in the new suburban communities. There are many numbers that prove this large movement choice, such as the increase of 10% of all people across the country moving to these new suburban areas, and the growth of existing suburban areas by 22% between 1940 and 1950. Planned suburban areas had also grown over their expected population by 126%. This goes to show how popular the suburban movement was across the country. This is all we have for the statistics behind the movement. With that being said, Fulabi, let's get on with the recap.
Thank you, On and Giono, for the great details about this. So, in conclusion, the suburban movement was a mass movement of the American people from the city to the outskirts, caused by the return of soldiers seeking to start a family and relocate in order to do so. They all chose this new way of living because it was a new lifestyle, yet a convenient one that still allowed for them to work in the same fashion as before, as they were able to get to and from work with the new methods of transportation present, such as the interstate system. Discounts on living costs also made it popular, as in most occasions, it actually made the suburbs cheaper than the city apartments available. The benefits of this lifestyle attracted many and in turn created what was commonly known as the American Dream, that being 2.5 kids, a white picket fence, friendly neighbors, and a dog.
Indeed, the suburban lifestyle still commonly lives on as of today, and it has continued to be prosperous as a major part of American culture. Now, that's all we have for this episode on the American suburban movements of the 50s.
With that being said, we'll see you next time on Wakani News.